Hey everyone, welcome to episode 259, Emotional Speed Bumps. Welcome to the Harmony in the Home podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Hutchison. I'm a counselor, a life coach, and most importantly, an imperfect mom doing this work right along with you. And my goal on our podcast is to go from chaos to calm, feel less frazzled, and have more fun within your four walls to have more harmony in your home. So I love this analogy because I'm an analogy junkie, and I got it from Dr. John Delaney when I was on I just couldn't stop listening to all of the people's problems on his show, and it was so fascinating. Some of the advice he gave, I was like, oof, that does not sit right with me, and some of it I was like, yes, that's so spot on. But that's true with anybody I listen to, and hopefully anyone you listen to too. You have that like, ooh, that really resonated, or ooh, that didn't sound right. I didn't really like the way that sounded. That's going to be normal because you have autonomy and you have your own brain to own your opinions and thoughts. So I don't want anyone to ever think like, oh, Kelly's telling me the way it should be. This is the one way and only way. There is a million right ways of doing it. Most people come to me because they're feeling guilt and shame because they can't stop yelling and their kids aren't listening and they're on the crazy cycle. So I just help people get off the crazy cycle. And if you need help getting off the crazy cycle, sign up for Pocket Coaching. It's help on the go. If you're a busy mom or a busy dad or a busy uncle or busy greedy grandpappy or busy step parent, it's via Voxer, where it's like voicemail meets walkie-talkie, where you can share stories and examples and pain points that you're having. And then I can help you with your unconscious and conscious thinking to see where the disconnect is so then you can have more harmony in your home. If you're interested, go to coachingkelly.com, sign up under the Work With Me tab, or just reply to the email on Wednesdays, and then we can work together so you can have more harmony in your home. One of the ways to have more harmony in your home is this analogy called emotional speed bumps. I heard Dr. Delaney say it, and it was so good that I had to write it down as soon as I heard it because I knew I had to tell you about it. Because I'm always watching TikToks and watching Instagram Reels because I'm always like, how can I help you guys? How can I serve you better? What are your pain points? What are you struggling with? I love hearing people's problems because I realize that we all have them. We all have stressors in our life. And think about how like stress follows you on the day-to-day. It follows me on the day-to-day. And it's part of the human experience is to experience stress. And then we're shocked and surprised that our kids feel stress. They just show it in different ways and it's over things that we don't really relate with. But that's because they're 5 years old and they're 15 years old. And that's the stress in their life right now. And it's very big and it's very normal. So our job is to help them manage that stress. And so Dr. Shefali talks about how there's a space and time between their action and our reaction. And in that, she says the power of the pause. The power of the pause is where so much of your learning comes from and so much of your reaction comes from. So it's like if you think about baseball, when a kid is hitting a baseball, the pitcher pitches the ball and the kid has, I don't know how many seconds it is to react. I'm not even going to go to the major league because they have like nanoseconds to react. But I see like Grady just moved to the bigger field. So now I don't know. I don't even know what the footage is. David's told me, but let's say this is going to be so wrong. Let's say it was 30 feet and now it's 50 feet from the mound to the home plate. I know that's wrong, but I'm just using that as an example. So they're now in the bigger field. And so batters have a lot more time to react to the pitch because it takes so much longer to get across the plate. It's also as they get older, the pitches get faster, but the batters I see have a lot more time to respond to the pitch coming in because the distance in which it's traveled has been extended since he's gone to U13s. So why do I say that? I use that analogy because I love thinking about that with our kids and their behavior. Because if we're always doing the same thing we've always doing in return, when we're always doing the same thing we've always done, and expecting different results, people say that's the definition of insanity, but it's actually the definition of the way the brain works. The brain wants to go on autopilot. So that's why it's their reaction, then our reaction. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And that's why so many people think they're on the crazy cycle or feel like they're on the crazy cycle because it's like same nonsense, different day because we're working from the unconscious and our kids are working from the unconscious and their brains aren't fully developed yet. So when we know this, it's very empowering to be like, oh, there's a power in that pause. Also in that pause is where most of your ego comes from. When you're having a big reaction to their big reaction, that's mostly coming from ego. It's mostly coming from fear of not being good enough, or we're failing, or our kids aren't good enough. And so that's where a lot of our reaction comes from. It's usually stemmed from fear. So that's why I love the analogy of an emotional speed bump. Think about an emotional speed bump. Grady's school is on a 2-lane road. To get to it, you have to take a 2-lane road. And on either side of this 2-lane road are these houses that are really, really short driveways, and they're really close to the road. And so on this major road, even though it's 2-lane, it's still a city road. It has not speed bumps, but more like speed humps. And why do they do that? Because they want people going slower, because not only is his school there's also another elementary school across the street and down the way a little bit. So they want people to go slower, so not flying by for all the residents with their short driveways and just so close to the road if they're playing ball outside. And also, there's 2 schools right there. And so if a kid darts out or is getting out of this car and his backpack falls out and he falls out, I mean, kids are really clumsy. Nothing against them, but they are. And so so we have speed bumps to slow down the cars, and they're really speed humps. They're not so jarring like you see in a parking lot like Walmart. Those speed bumps are like, oh, you can't go over them slow enough. And my dad used to be so cautious of speed bumps because he's like, oh, it's going to ruin my engine or ruin my alignment or ruin my such and such or wheel something. I don't know. But he would take speed bumps so insanely slow. It was actually comical. We joked that he was going backwards over the speed bumps because he was going so slow. I cannot go over a speed bump without thinking of my dad and how slow he goes over them. Speed bumps are a little bit easier, but I feel like speed bumps, you cannot ever go over them unless you're my dad without jarring the entire car. So speed humps are a little bit better. They still slow you down, but they don't like slow you down to a stop, almost like my dad did when he was going over speed bumps. So I love the feeling of emotional speed bumps. And I love the analogy of emotional speed bumps because that's the power in the pause. To take time between their action and your reaction and to ask yourself, how do I want to show up this moment? What's going on for me? What's going on for my inner child? Am I parenting from fear right now, or am I parenting from a place of abundance and love? What would I do if this was my neighbor's child, my niece or my nephew, or someone I was babysitting, or a student in my classroom? That's where the emotional speed bump can come from. You can turn it into, and then after you go through emotional speed bump, you can turn it into emotional speed hump, like the ones that are around Grady's school, where you still have to go slow, but you're not going to a small crawl, so you don't hurt your alignment of your car. Think of their actions and your reactions, and instead of always thinking about the pause, thinking about a car going over a speed bump and then changing it to a speed hump, and then change it into a school zone where you have to go 20 miles per hour. We have school zones, and if you're around a school, you have to go 20 miles per hour. So it starts off as a speed bump, then it goes to a speed hump, and then it goes to a school zone. And when you practice that, and you practice the tricky emotions, and you practice the tricky moments like that, in stages like that, it becomes your everyday and it becomes the norm. And they'll still come up, but you'll be able to self-regulate because you realize that the power in the pause, they're having a hard time, not giving you a hard time. And you can come from a place of love and abundance versus fear and lack and scarcity and anger. And then everybody, guess what? Gets to have more harmony in the home. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Hey mamas, thanks for listening. If you had any ahas, clicks, or those lightning bolt moments while listening, you have to check out my free parenting bootcamp, where we take all of this to the next level and we try to create even more awakenings for ourselves so that we can connect more with our kids and never yell at them again. You can sign up at www.coachingkelly.com. And if you really want to fill up my love cup, send me an email of what your aha was, what your click was, what was that lightning bolt moment while you were listening. I want nothing more in life than for you to have harmony in your home and to learn how to be an imperfect mom like me, which allows your kids to be imperfect too, each and every day. Thanks for listening.